At her sister's engagement party, they laughed at her, called her the family rulebook, mocked her job like she was nothing. Then she stood up, looked her sister's fiancé in the eye, and said just one sentence that froze the whole room. This is the true story of Eleanor, the woman they tried to humiliate, not knowing she held the power to end careers with a signature. What would you have done in her place? Drop your thoughts in the comments. They never said I wasn't welcome. They just made sure I knew I wasn't wanted. The rose gold envelope lay atop the marble kitchen counter, too elegant for its own intent. Eleanor had left it unopened for 3 days, letting it sit like a polished insult. She finally peeled it open that morning, revealing a card with Sienna's looping script and a printed image of her and Trevor, cheek to cheek, flawless glowing. The font read, "Celebrate the engagement of Sienna Brooks and Trevor Maddox." The card sparkled, but the sentiment beneath it was cold. The accompanying text had come later, as though Sienna remembered she should pretend to care. "Don't worry if you can't come. And maybe don't wear something too serious." The smiley face wasn't ironic. It was perfectly Sienna, lightly cruel, soft-focus cruelty dressed as charm. Eleanor leaned against the kitchen island, her apartment still and curated. She lived alone in a high-rise in San Francisco's Civic Center, the kind of space that felt like a decision. Clean lines, muted tones, books stacked like art and certificates framed along the hallway. Juris Doctor, Yale Law, appointment to the United States District Court for the Northern District of California, commendation for the Eastgate ruling. None of it had ever earned a spot in the Brooks family living room. Her fingers tapped twice against the counter before she walked to her desk, retrieving an old photo she never quite managed to throw away. A Thanksgiving maybe 15 years ago, Sienna in the center, beaming in a yellow dress, Donna holding her close. Eleanor was off to the side in navy, half turned away, half cut from the frame. Donna once told her bridge club, "Eleanor's bright, but she's hard to love. Sienna, though, she belongs to the world." Eleanor had overheard it. She never said anything. She never did. She dropped the photo back in the drawer and returned to her living room, where the quiet was thick but not oppressive. Silence didn't bother her. It never had. What unsettled her now wasn't the invitation or even the party. It was the knowledge that after years of success, after judgments handed down and careers quietly ended by her pen, she still hesitated. Still questioned whether she belonged at a party thrown by people who had never seen her at all. Flashbacks came without warning. Sienna at 12, dazzling relatives with her theatrical retelling of school gossip. Donna beaming with pride. Eleanor correcting someone's math at the other end of the table unnoticed. The memory of a birthday when the cake had Sienna's name in frosting, not hers. They'd laughed it off. "Oh, you girls are practically twins," Donna had said. Eleanor was 3 years older. She exhaled slowly. Her mother had once praised Sienna's emotional intelligence, adding in the same breath Eleanor's precise. A little rigid, maybe, but very capable. Praise stripped of affection. Through all of it, Eleanor had learned to fold into the background. She became efficient, strategic, impenetrable. Her college graduation was attended only by a professor who liked her logic. Her appointment to the bench had made headlines, but Donna never called. Sienna had texted a thumbs up. Now a party. A crowd. An appearance she was expected to make as a prop, a sibling-shaped placeholder in a pastel tableau. She could decline. She could ignore it all. But she wouldn't. She walked to her bedroom, opened the closet with its surgical neatness. Her black judicial robes hung in the center, perfectly pressed. Next to them, the wardrobe of someone who rarely played dress-up slim trousers, structured jackets, grayscale restraint. She reached past the robes, paused on a hanger with a black dress she'd only worn once to a gala honoring women in federal leadership. Tailored. Clean lines, no sequins. Nothing to apologize for. She took it down carefully. The fabric whispered in her hand like permission. She laid it across her bed, then stood there still for a moment, letting the silence wrap around her. Her heart didn't pound. Her face betrayed nothing. It wasn't anger she felt. Not even resentment. It was resolve. I wouldn't go to be seen. But for once, they would. The venue smelled like champagne roses and carefully constructed lies. Eleanor stepped onto the cobbled path of the Pacific Heights estate. the late afternoon light glinting off the windows like they too were trying too hard to shine. The garden stretched in manicured tiers, draped in blush pink linens and gold accents, each detail curated within an inch of sincerity. Musicians tuned their strings under an arch of peonies. Waiters moved like dancers. Even the breeze felt rehearsed. She wasn't on the guest list at the door. The hostess' face, pulled taut in pleasantries, blinked at her. "Ah, you're with the event staff." "No," Eleanor said simply. "Oh, apologies." The woman stammered, stepping aside with the flustered grace of someone who hadn't imagined a black-clad woman arriving without glitter or small talk. Inside the garden, everything bloomed and buzzed. People raised flutes, clinked glasses, posed for photos. Sienna, radiant in pale peach, stood under a floral arch surrounded by a crescent of admirers. She sparkled. Her laughter was the kind that made heads turn, camera shutters flutter, and self-conscious guests rearrange their posture. Eleanor lingered near a hedge unnoticed, watching the choreography unfold. Her heels clicked softly on the stone. She felt like a punctuation mark no one had expected in the middle of a scripted sentence. A server offered her a glass. She took it, nodded once, and moved toward the buffet table, not to eat, but because it was the only unoccupied place that didn't demand smiling. From her perch near the chafing dishes, she saw Donna and George Brooks, her parents, standing near the champagne tower. They looked expensive, lacquered in the confidence of people who believed in their image. Donna's eyes flicked toward her, then away again, like a fly she wouldn't swat in public. Eleanor remembered her law school graduation. The empty seats saved for them. The voice message Donna left sweetheart, "The spa accidentally double-booked us, but we're so proud of you. Send photos." She didn't send any. Sienna stood atop the garden steps, now holding a crystal flute arm looped through Trevor's. The crowd hushed, half curious, half posed. "I just want to say," Sienna beamed, "that I've always been the rebel in the family. Ask anyone. Eleanor, my older sister, she's the rulebook. Seriously, she once filed a formal complaint when I borrowed her notebook in 10th grade. A pause for effect. Color-coded tabs and everything. Laughter erupted. The kind that rises because it's expected, not earned. Trevor chuckled, tilting his glass. Someone looked at Eleanor, then looked away, quickly, embarrassed for reasons they couldn't name. Another woman offered a pitying smile as if Eleanor were a cautionary tale. She didn't flinch. She didn't sip. Her glass rested on her lap untouched. Sienna's eyes scanned the garden, catching Eleanor's from across the crowd. She didn't falter. She winked. The buffet table never felt so theatrical. Later, when the sun lowered enough to cast long shadows over the lawn, Trevor broke from a group of lawyers comparing court anecdotes and wandered toward her. He had that polished charm some men mistake for depth. "Hey," he said, hesitating before sitting. "So, Sienna said you work in admin, like record keeping." Eleanor turned to him. Her face was unreadable, serene like a still lake before a storm. "Something like that," she said. He smiled faintly, unsure if he'd insulted her. Probably assumed she didn't notice. "Do you enjoy it?" She sipped her champagne, not because she was thirsty, but because it delayed response. The flute chimed softly as she set it back down. She raised an eyebrow. That was all. And somewhere across the garden, unnoticed by either of them, a woman in a coral dress. Jada Collins, investigative blogger with a sharp eye for undercurrents, lifted her phone and began to record. Not the toast. Not the couple. But Eleanor, quiet in the corner, the only thing in the party not pretending. They thought silence was surrender. But mine was a verdict waiting for the right courtroom. The sun had begun to sink, casting long ribbons of gold through the tall windows of the estate's main hall. Crystal chandeliers flickered to life overhead, refracting light across champagne glasses and sequined dresses. Inside, the laughter softened to a murmur as guests filtered in from the garden, finding seats around circular tables dressed in pink silk and pale peonies. Eleanor moved quietly to the far edge of the room, her black dress cutting a clean, definitive line through the pastel haze. She didn't search for a place near family, there wasn't one. A half-empty table near the dessert display suited her fine. She sat alone, spine-straight fingers resting lightly on her glass. The MC's voice carried over the gentle hum. If I could have your attention for a few minutes, our radiant bride-to-be would like to say a few words. Polite applause rose. Then Sienna stepped into the light. She glowed, of course. Her peach dress hugged her frame with surgical precision, and her hair was styled into effortless curls that no effort could achieve. Her smile was generous, theatrical, designed for cameras, and it worked. The crowd leaned in. I just want to say how grateful I am. She began, voice full of rehearsed emotion. Grateful for love for all of you, for champagne, obviously. Laughter. She beamed. And for family, even if some members are more observant than festive. The room chuckled again. Eleanor didn't move. I mean, let's be honest. Sienna continued giggling. Eleanor's not big on family gatherings. Or smiling. But she's here, and that's what matters. More laughter. Lighter this time, but with edges. Near the buffet, Jada Collins paused with a lemon tart in hand. Her phone was already in recording mode. Then Trevor stepped forward, nudged by Sienna's elbow. He had that look again, amiable, glossy, superficial. It's great to have everyone here, he said, raising his glass. And of course to finally meet more of Sienna's family. I've heard so much about Eleanor. He turned, smiling toward her. So what do you actually do again? I always forget filing stuff right. It was a genuine question wrapped in smug ignorance. He didn't know it was the final step into a courtroom he never realized he'd entered. Eleanor wiped the stem of her glass with a linen napkin slowly. Then she lifted her gaze. Her voice was low, exacting. Filing things, yes. Court evidence, presiding over felony trials, handing down federal sentences. The air cracked. Not with noise, but the absence of it. Donna shifted in her seat. George looked suddenly uncomfortable. Someone near the bar whispered, Judge Brooks. The Eastgate case eyes began to turn. Eleanor stood. There was no fanfare in the movement, just quiet command. She adjusted the sleeve of her dress as if preparing for a different kind of ceremony. I'm the presiding federal judge of Judicial District 9, she said. Her tone was dry, factual, weighted. Appointed 3 years ago. My courtroom has ruled on embezzlement, trafficking, and securities fraud. She let that sit. She watched Trevor's expression collapse into pale confusion. She turned, slightly voice-carrying, just enough. Next time you laugh at someone, make sure you know who they are. No one laughed now. Phones rose like slow-moving hands in a trial. Jada's screen captured the stillness perfectly. Sienna's frozen mouth, slightly open, caught mid-performance with no script. Trevor looked like a man who'd just realized he was standing on a trapdoor. A single notification dinged from across the room. Jada's clip was already uploading. You don't have to shout when the room goes quiet for you. Eleanor stepped into her apartment just after dusk. The sun had long dipped below the bay, casting the San Francisco skyline into the soft hush of evening. Her heels clicked softly on the hardwood floor before she slipped them off, leaving them by the door like the remnants of a battle she hadn't planned to fight. She moved through her minimalist space. Clean lines, grayscale art, quiet lighting. The silence wasn't absence. It was peace. Controlled. Earned. Her phone buzzed the moment she set her keys down. Then again. And again. A cascade of alerts pulled her toward the kitchen counter where the screen lit up like a stage. Her inbox was flooded, missed calls, group chats reactivated after years, unread messages from names she hadn't spoken aloud in a decade. She opened the notification bar and blinked at the headlines, Judge Brooks silences party mockery with one line. Engagement toast turns trial. Federal judge drops the gavel in real life. Judge Brooks. Eastgate verdict. Not just. The Sister Jada's video had gone viral. Eleanor clicked the link. The clip was crisp, just under a minute. Her voice calm, her posture still, her words precise, unhurried. It wasn't about flair. It was about facts. She watched herself say it again. I'm the presiding federal judge of Judicial District 9. And the room, how it had shifted in a breath. That power, that stillness, it was familiar. She'd felt it behind the bench before, but never with her own blood watching. The screen filled with comments, retweets, and reactions. She's a whole mic drop in heels. Who needs revenge when you have a resume, Sienna, who imagine insulting a federal judge thinking she's just admin? A message popped up from Jada Iconic. You didn't flinch. Eleanor smiled faintly. Not out of satisfaction. Not pride. Something steadier. A long-held truth finally given air. She moved to the couch, set the phone beside her face up, but ignored. Across the room, the TV played silently. A news anchor's mouth moved beneath the caption, Judge Brooks presiding over the famous Eastgate scandal. Buzz. Another text. From her mother. No voicemail. Just 3 missed calls in a row. All from Donna Brooks. Predictable. Then Sienna. You didn't have to humiliate me. You ruined everything. For what Eleanor read the messages without emotion. She tapped the power button. The screen went black. Outside, fog began to blur the window panes. She reached for a folder on her coffee table, the Eastgate appeal. 1,000 pages of deception paper trails, forged contracts. Eleanor flipped to her annotated margin notes, picked up a pen, and resumed marking. Some things still required attention. Some verdicts took time. Later, she pressed play on the viral clip again, not to bask in it, but to study. Her cadence, her restraint, the gravity in her voice. She heard no cruelty, no spectacle, just clarity. She smiled not at revenge, but at the sound of justice finally spoken aloud. Guilt doesn't always knock. Sometimes it lingers in silence, hoping you'll answer first. The morning after the party rose slow and overcast, San Francisco's usual fog curling along Sienna's glass balcony. Inside her high-rise condo, the air was unusually quiet. No music, no mimosas, no curated playlists humming in the background. Just the clink of a fork on an untouched plate and the tension that settled between a mother and daughter who no longer controlled the narrative. She did this to me, Sienna hissed, stabbing at scrambled eggs she had no intention of eating. Her makeup was minimal, not by choice, but necessity. There hadn't been time to repaint the image. Donna sat stiffly across from her fingers, curling around a coffee mug she'd reheated twice. Her expression was unreadable, somewhere between confusion and wounded pride. You could have warned us, she said finally. You knew she wasn't just some clerk, Sienna scoffed. Why would I think my own sister, a federal judge, wouldn't mention it at least once? She's not exactly famous for subtlety. Donna didn't answer. She was staring at her phone, rereading the news alerts, the tags, the video clip that had passed 1 million views by dawn. The truth wasn't just out. It was documented, dissected, and devoured. Later that morning, Eleanor sat in her chambers, the windows behind her drawing soft light across the mahogany desk. A quiet hush floated through the federal building, respectful, not fearful. Her clerks passed her office with nods of acknowledgement. There was no mention of parties of sisters of viral fame. Here, she was not someone's sibling. She was the judge. She clicked open her inbox. A flagged email hovered near the top. From Trevor Maddox, subject clarification and apology. She clicked it open, read the first 2 lines, then closed it again. I apologize if I offended you. It was a misunderstanding. I didn't realize. It wasn't an apology. It was optics. She flagged it, archived it, and moved on. Another message buzzed through her phone. Her mother. Why did you do that in front of everyone? Couldn't you have said something privately? Eleanor didn't respond. She didn't need to. The answer was already public record. She turned her focus back to the Eastgate documents, fraudulent statements, falsified timelines, a defendant who now wanted leniency. But her concentration broke when her phone rang. Sienna. Eleanor considered not answering. But she did. You wanted to embarrass me. Sienna spat through the line. Her voice cracked not from vulnerability, but from the loss of control. Admit it. You planned it. I wanted the truth in the room, Eleanor replied. Her voice steady, measured. That's not the same thing. Sienna was silent. Then came the click of a disconnected call. Outside, the courthouse lawn swayed with early spring wind. Inside, Eleanor exhaled and moved to sign a motion. Her pen flowed easily, precise, final. An alert pinged from her laptop. A press release. Trevor Maddox removed from upcoming legal tech keynote amid online scrutiny and reputational concerns. There was no gloating, no satisfaction, only confirmation. Eleanor didn't destroy anyone. They simply revealed themselves given the right lighting. And the gavel had already fallen. I didn't win. There was no trophy. But for once, I wasn't shrinking. The conference hall in downtown Chicago was polished but unpretentious. Wood-paneled walls, rows of simple velvet chairs, the soft hum of industry professionals exchanging nods and polite smiles. Eleanor stood behind the lectern, her notes resting beside a single glass of water she hadn't touched. Her voice, calm and low, carried to every corner of the room without strain. The burden of being unseen, she began, is not the absence of light. It's knowing the light was there and always being passed over for someone else. A few pens stilled. A couple of heads tilted, listening more closely now. There is dignity. She continued in silence that isn't submission. In restraint that isn't weakness. I've been called cold, detached, too serious, not suitable for the front row. She paused, letting the room breathe with her. But the courtroom doesn't reward spectacle. It listens to reason. And justice doesn't require a spotlight, only that we not look away. A quiet applause rose. Not thunderous, but warm, appreciative. No ovation, no cameras flashing, just the sound of people who had finally heard her. Later, back in her apartment, Eleanor dropped her keys into the bowl by the door. The sun was beginning to dip, casting long golden lines across the hardwood floor. She kicked off her shoes and walked toward the bookshelf, still in her dark tailored suit, the lapel of her blazer slightly creased from travel. She unpacked slowly, not with exhaustion, but with intention. As she placed a stack of symposium materials on the desk, her hand brushed a slim cardboard sleeve tucked between legal volumes. She pulled it out. An old photo. Herself at age 9. Unsmiling, standing alone on the edge of a school auditorium stage while Sienna waved to the crowd in a glittered costume. Eleanor in the corner, neat, quiet, cropped halfway by the frame. She'd kept it hidden for years, not because it hurt, but because it felt forgotten. She stared at it now. Not with sadness, not with resentment. She placed it on the shelf. Front-facing, not centered, not lit, but there. A soft ding from her phone. A direct message. Jada Collins. Thought you'd want to see this. You made the Times. The silent power of Eleanor Brooks, a woman who didn't raise her voice and didn't have to. Eleanor set the phone aside. The room was still. Not the hollow silence of absence, but the full-bodied stillness of ownership. They didn't fail to see me because I was invisible, she thought. They failed because they never looked. She turned away from the window, walking back into the quiet she'd built, not to disappear, but to live fully within. And no one had to applaud that. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was earned. Eleanor didn't shout, didn't retaliate, and yet the truth rose louder than any applause ever could. In a world quick to reward performance over principle, her quiet defiance became the loudest verdict of all. Like the final chord of a long-forgotten melody, justice may arrive late, but it resonates powerfully once it's heard. Some reckonings come not with fury, but with the stillness of someone who no longer needs to prove they were right.